Who is Lomax the brand? She is Tanika Marie Lomax, born July 3rd, 1979, Boston, Massachusetts. So, celebrating 39 years of life. I feel like closing this chapter, going into 40, that I'm going into adulting. So I wanted to celebrate all of the things that I have accomplished, all of the things I have learned throughout this time. As much as we're around people, we never really know them. So I kind of wanted to take people down memory lane, thank those who I haven't thanked, acknowledge those who I haven't acknowledged, and share my wonderful news with people that I have not shared with yet. So, born to a single mother, Celeste, and went through a lot. It was a lot of things that we went through, me and her together. I probably never told my mother how much I appreciated her. Because of her, I am strong. I learned how to survive, and I probably wouldn't have learned how to survive without her being the woman that she is, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We traveled a lot, so we were gypsies. I know how to pack very, very quick. But throughout that time, I had a lot of depression, I had a lot of sexual abuse, and a lot of lonely times. And I think that was because she was a young mother, as most women are, they're young parents, learning how to parent while learning how to love, and not only love themselves, but love their child as well. So during that course of me, having the suicide attempts and going through all the depression that I went through, I met this lady named Michelle Walsh. Michelle Walsh is my second mother. She's a white lady that came and picked me up in the hood on Stanwood Ave in Grove Hall. And she would come and visit me. She would come and take me to do things that, and being in the inner city, you would never be able to do. I find it ironic now when people talk about, Black Lives Matter and what are white people doing to stick up for African Americans and Black people. If they don't say anything, if they're not part of this movement, then we'll continue to have the racism. But this was back in 1992 that this lady was an advocate for Blacks and Black lives. I love her to death. She is a lot of the reason why I am who I am, as well as my cousin. I don't want to cry. As well as my cousin Richie. Richie passed away back then in 1991. I knew what unconditional love was. He was a mentor, and he was a counselor for mentally challenged and handicapped kids. So every Thanksgiving, Richie would have his kids come to our Thanksgiving table. And I seen his unconditional love for children and for individuals, regardless whether they were obese, they were Black, whether they were white, whether they were mentally challenged, handicapped. And it just, all of these things together was something that I took in when it comes to love and who you are as a person, and just being able to love people for who they are and what they are. It's crazy to me because I always do things, and I always wonder, would he be proud of the young woman that I am today? I miss him greatly. I miss him a lot. Yeah. Then we go into Tyrell. I was 17 years old when my mother came and got me out of high school. And she was like, I got something to tell you. I was like, okay. Like, you got me out of school. So at that moment, I probably didn't even care what she had to tell me because I got out of school early. And she was like, yeah, I'm pregnant. I was like, yes, so I can really run the streets now. So, but the irony was that me and her was pregnant at the same time. I was 16, going on 17. And my mom was like in her mid 30s, and she had a surgery to have my brother. So she said, if you don't have this baby, this is gonna be our baby. So I felt like my baby was kind of almost like a sacrifice, because I was like, okay, She wants me to live my life. She wants me to still be able to be a child without the responsibilities of having my own child. But we can share this baby. And that's what we did. I want to say in 96, my mother was almost beaten to death and thrown out of a car. Tyrell at that time probably was 6 months old. And I remember being with my boyfriend at the time. And back then you could transfer your phone. So remember, you could be like, back when people had home phones, you could transfer your calls to your cell phone or your pager or whatever. And I remember this number kept calling. I'm like, what is this number? So by the time I got home, it was South Carolina, the South Carolina hospital, saying that my mother was in the ER, that she had been beaten and thrown out of a moving vehicle, and that we had to come pick her up. And I remember seeing her face, and I just remember like that. I think that was probably one of the hardest phone calls that I could ever get. And at that moment, I was in the 11th grade. Tyrell, again, at that time was 6 months old. And I was like, I'm never leaving their side again. And I didn't. I dropped out of school. I started working with her at room service at the Marriott Hotel, getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, getting him dressed, dropping him off to daycare while she opened up room service. And that was my life. And it had been my life. I don't know if Tyrell even knows how much I love him and how much it's my job to make sure that he survives. You know, as a young black man, you know, not having his father around, I always wanted him to look at me as an example of what a woman should be and how a woman should love. And just for him to know how much I kind of love him and care about him and want him to be successful. That's my baby. The inside joke is that he is actually my child, but he is not. I have not birthed any. God hasn't given me that privilege yet. After taking care of my grandmother who had cancer, which was hard because she didn't like me. My grandmother didn't care for me at all, but I still took care of her until she passed away. And when she passed away, I came to Atlanta, and I was probably about 26, 27 at that time, and I was just here. You know how you just in the town and you're just like, I'm here. I was in the music industry, and I kind of was just living. I wouldn't say living my best life. I was just living. And when you're living without a purpose, you're just kind of just drifting through life. And that's what I was doing. I was drifting through life. And then I ended up meeting my best friend, Jessica. And that was by chance because she was friends with somebody, you know, who I'm no longer friends with. But we clicked, and we clicked in a way that she's the polar opposite of me. But we mesh because we're so different. I can tell her so many things and not feel judged. I can be completely silly. I can be completely serious. It's just one of those things where we kind of get each other. And then she moved away, and I was like, what do I do? What do I do without my security blanket? So one day I went to this party. It was a pool party. And I'm standing there. You know how you kind of oblivious to everything that's going on. So I'm looking at everybody in the pool and all this stuff. And then this little short guy comes up, and he's like, oh my God, you're so beautiful. And I'm just like, thanks. I'm like, you're the photographer. That's what the photographer says to anybody that they want to take a picture, right? You're so beautiful. And I'm like, thanks, you know, appreciate it. Okay, now get this angle and get this angle. And okay, you got it. Okay, all right, good. And then he's like, can I have your phone number? And I'm like, but he asked me a question. He was like, do you have a boyfriend? So of course, me being me, I'm very, I'm a smart ass. I was like, I don't deal with boys. I deal with men. And he was like, well, that's great, because that's what I am. So we end up exchanging phone numbers, and he didn't wait 3, 4, 5, 6 days. I think he ended up texting me or calling me the next day. And it was funny because every time he would text me, it was like a different language. I was like, what are you texting? But he's not a texter, and his thumbs are like the size of 2 fingers. So that's our running joke. But Miguel has been probably one of the best things that has happened to me.
Slow motion. Back it up. Back it up. Back it up. Back it up. Back it up.
Again, like most of my relationships that have lasted throughout time, complete opposites. I like meat, junk food. He doesn't eat anything but vegetables. I can't cook. He's a cook. We're polar opposites. And I think he's the best balance that I could have asked for. A lot of times as single women, we ask God, we want a husband, we want a man. But are we prepared ourselves for what we're asking God for? I know that when I met him, I was hell on wheels. I wasn't prepared for what I asked for. I had this list of what I wanted in a mate, and I just wrote down all these things. And he's the opposite of everything that I wrote. He's the opposite of everything that I wrote down. But the main thing that I remember writing is somebody that challenges me, somebody that pushes me. Because I could be a bully. I can be so headstrong, and I can be so overbearing that I need somebody that's just like, yeah, no, this is not, nope. And he's that. I couldn't ask for a more supportive, more understanding partner who just doesn't judge me. Dealing with sobriety and not having alcohol in my life right now has been one of the easiest things to do, and it's been for the betterment of our relationship, because now I can have a clear and level head without being all in my feelings and being emotional and being drunk at the same time. And to love a person at their weakest and lowest point. I met this man, I didn't have a job. I met this man, I was 15 pounds. I met this man, I was breaking out in acne. In everything that I went through, each phase of my life. I had a 480 credit score when I met him, like in the 700s now. I was living in an apartment then, have a house now. I had a car note of like 480 to 560. I don't have a car note now. It is amazing that when you're with somebody who you want to be better for, that you want to step up to be a woman, to be a wife. And I think that that's what we all should want in our mate, is for you to want to be a better person for them. And he has been that, and I love him to death. If we never get married, that might be an issue, but not. If we never get married, to have a happy and to have a loving relationship supersedes a title and a status, because sometimes that gets overshadowed by the actual state of a relationship, which is being happy. And I'm happy. I'm happy. I haven't been this full and complete in a long time. And thanks to my therapist, Rachel, because she has been able to also give me that balance. A lot of times we put our baggage on our partner, we put our baggage on our friends, and we don't know. Sometimes we have to level that off, and we have to give it to somebody else that has an unbiased opinion of us. So I'm a full supporter of therapy and going to talk to somebody else so that we can kind of level off who we are and grow. And I'm grown. I'm closing this chapter of 39 and I'm ready for 40. But guess what? Before I go, no, I'm not pregnant. No, I'm not married. But I got something else that I am. Come on, y'all. I'm going to take y'all to the surprise.
Life is a miracle, no blessing. Every trial and test is a lesson. Gotta seek the truth and stop guessing. Ain't got no room for doubts to ask questions. Knowledge is the most powerful weapon. Got a full march, no half stepping. I've learned. Oh. My mama really tried to keep me at the sandwich there, brotherhood. Yeah. And everything they told me that I can't, just show them that I could. Oh yeah. People always told me I was bad, I was misunderstood. But I admit that I was lost. Click, dear. Had to learn the hard, slow.